In this video, I am going to be car camping on the hill of Faughart in County Louth, and I'm going to be looking for the gravesite of the last High King of Ireland. To understand why the last High King of Ireland is buried on top of a hill in County Louth, we need to go back to the First Scottish War of Independence and our main man, Edward de Brus, the King of Scots. Now, Robert wasn't King of Scotland at the beginning of the war, but he did fight against the English all the way up until the great Scottish defeat at Falkirk, where most of the Scottish nobles after that point submitted to the King of England, Edward I, or Longshanks as he was known. He was a greatly feared king in English history. But once Edward de Brus's dad died and he inherited the claim on the Scottish throne, he reignited the rebellion. He was crowned King of Scotland and he got off to a bit of a rocky start. He lost a few battles and basically everybody in his family were either killed or captured, all apart from his last surviving brother, Edward de Brus. Eventually, Edward and Robert managed to climb their way back up to power to the legendary victory over the English at Bannockburn in 1314, I think it was. And Edward was a very capable man. He had proved himself at Bannockburn. He had taken back multiple castles occupied by the English in Scotland. He fought his way through Galloway. He was a trusted council member of the King of Scotland, Edward de Brus, who was his brother, so fair enough. But he was so trusted that Robert named him heir to the throne of Scotland. There used to be a common practice in Gaelic culture called fostering, where families, particularly noble families, would send their sons at a young age to grow up with another family. And this was supposed to enforce alliances and lifelong bonds and friendships that would help them out later in life, with everything that came with medieval life in Ireland and Scotland. And it is thought that Edward de Brus was fostered in Ulster in the north of Ireland with the O'Neill clan. And this brings us to Ireland in this story. During this period, the O'Neills were the strongest faction in Ireland. Their king, Donal O'Neill, ruled a large portion of Ulster. But as strong as Donal O'Neill was, we had been fighting our own war against the English here in Ireland for a couple of hundred years at this point, and it wasn't going great, So as strong as Donal was, he still had the issue of multiple English armies on his doorsteps almost at all times. So when he received a letter from Edward de Brus himself looking for alliances, he said, you can read this letter online, but it appeals to the common Celtic language and culture and heritage, and it's a very romantic letter and has sparked all sorts of ideas about pan-Celtic union, an alliance to fight against the English, which it seemed like he might have been going that way, but more than the romanticism behind the idea, it made strategic sense because Ireland's resources had been raped by England in its wars for years, and that was our food, our money, our taxes, and our men. So by opening another front here, it would take away a lot of that for the English that was being used in Scotland. It would also mean that England would have to use more of its own resources on a second front in Ireland. And it meant that Donal O'Neill could push the English out of Ulster. Something we're still trying to do. Now, who had great ties with the O'Neills and was very useful in this situation, but Edward de Brus, the brother of the King of Scotland. He arrived in the north east of Ireland in County Antrim with 6,000 fighting men at his back in the year 1315. He arrived and joined forces with O'Neill and with O'Neill's allies, and together they created a force that was something to be feared for this region and this time in Ireland. They flattened every English army they came across. They were unstoppable. They marched south, destroying armies, came back north. They took Carrickfergus Castle, which was the stronghold in Ulster. And around this time, Edward de Brus was crowned the High King of Ireland. which is a crazy decision for Donal O'Neill, the most powerful king in Ireland, to give the green flag to, because surely it should have been him. But maybe it was desperation. Donal might have just been happy with Ulster at that point. So Donal O'Neill and I think 12 allied kings come together and they sign to make Edward de Brus the High King of Ireland. Shortly after this, Robert de Brus comes over from Scotland, reinforces Edward's army, and they march south on Dublin. They lay siege to Dublin in 1317 and they don't take it. And I don't really understand why. It was the centre of administration for the English in Ireland and they didn't take it. But however, Robert returned to Scotland and Edward kept marching south, all the way southwest to Limerick. And by that point his supply lines were basically non-existent. And for the bad luck of Scotland, 1315 to 1317 was the worst European famine in a generation. So people started to tire of the war, the burning of crops, and the disease that all of that brings along with it. The local villages and towns and soon their leaders began to see this Scottish army as just another foreign army in Ireland, and they wanted them out. So Edward de Brus retreated back north, his numbers dwindling from war and famine and disease. And by the time they get back up to the north of Ireland, their numbers are thought to have been about 2,000, and I don't know what state those 2,000 men were in. While Edward was getting his things in order with his 2,000 men he had left, the English and the Anglo-Irish in Ireland had managed to gather a force together to try and put down this Scottish invasion, the Brus campaign in Ireland, once and for all. The numbers are definitely inflated. The sources say 20,000 stood against de Brus's 2,000. It's definitely way less than that, but for dramatic sake, let's say 20,000 for the crack. For some mad reason, Edward de Brus, the High King of Ireland, decides to take this challenge on. Some people think it was ego, some people think it was desperation. We don't really know. De Brus's army came through the Moira Pass, through the Gap of the North, the legendary passway from Ulster south into Leinster. They marched up the hill of Faughart, where I stand now. De Brus had arranged his troops in 3 columns and managed to convince what Irish leaders he had left to join him by telling them that they could just hang out at the rear. Basically just look like they're bulking out their numbers, and when things go wrong, they can shoot off back north. The army came over this hill where I'm walking now, and as each group of men came over the crest of this hill, they were obliterated by an English army. Behind me is now a cornfield, but that is where the Battle of Faughart happened. Each column that came over this hill behind me were faced with an army of 20,000 and destroyed one by one, eventually meeting Edward de Brus himself, where he was captured and killed. And this is his grave, the last High King of Ireland. Every part of the great man that was the last High King of Ireland, the brother to Robert de Brus, every bone, every scrap of him is under this big stone slab here. No, he's not in there. He was decapitated and quartered, and his body was dragged all over Ireland and disgraced by the English because they're sound. It's thought to probably be a commemorative point where he was probably killed in around there, or what some people think is that whatever was left of his body was placed in the ground and it is still under there. I mean, I don't think we'll ever really know. I don't think anybody wants to dig up the grave of the last King of Ireland. I think everybody's happy just living with the folklore that he's probably in there, but he might not be. That was the end of the Brus invasion. It ended any further attempts of a Scottish involvement in Ireland and of a pan-Celtic union against the English. The Scottish went on to do pretty good. They gained their independence, they raided into England. They did great. Didn't end up good for them in the end because, I mean, well, they're part of the United Kingdom now, so Edward and Robert would be spinning in their graves, I'm sure. But this place is free to come and visit. The Hill of Faughart in County Louth. The Battle of Faughart happened in that field behind me there. And potentially, maybe some of the last High King of Ireland is under that stone slab on top of this hill. This is a pretty busy spot. I didn't think it would be that busy. There's been loads of people up here walking their dogs and all. Why do I always camp next to grave sites? I don't know. Anyway, I've learned a few lessons since the first time I camped in my car, slept in my car, whatever you want to call it. I basically kitted the car out entirely before I got here. I think I got a flatter piece of land as well, so hopefully I'm not slipping and sliding everywhere during the night. I put some curtains up. The curtains are class. I mean, that looks a bit bandy there, but hello. Still brought a film, The Outlaw King. What else am I going to watch? A film about Robert de Brus and the Scottish War of Independence. It's actually not a bad flick. It's not exactly the most historically accurate film you're ever going to watch about something, but it's good crack. I'm going to put up the front curtain now and just block off the driving seat and gonna get in and hope that nobody arrives in the middle of the night. It's a Monday night. I think I'll be okay. Okay, I'm in my humble abode. And I need to get an additional light, I think. Oh yeah, oh my God, that's so bright. Jesus, look at that. It's marvelous. Okay, this is the gaff. Little curtains, fairy lights. I have just a little peeky window there. That's just a blanket that I just clipped to the little rope. But it's not a bad setup. I have a nice wool blanket, a real pillow, real luxury going on here. A blow-up mattress, and that's it. I'm most looking forward to, please, getting a sunrise in the morning because I have a delightful view of the Cooley Mountains behind me. And it's nice because I can just whip open the curtain and get a little view. I'm digging this setup a lot more than the last time. And if the sleep goes well, this could be a key into winter camping because I have some plans for winter camping and this big thick wool blanket was part of that plan. Today goes well, it's only going to get better. I'm only going to refine this just as you do with camping. You get better every time you go, you improve on little things, you get lighter, you get more efficient, and through those processes you enjoy it more. So yeah, all going well tonight. This could be something that I do a lot more during the winter time. Anyway, I'm gonna get this film going. I got a muffin. My partner made apple crumble muffins, so I'm gonna have one of them and watch Robert de Brus smash a load of English heads together during the Scottish War of Independence. Yo!
To be faithful and loyal to Edward, King of England, to never again bear arms against him or his heirs, so help me God. Stay there.
has pulled up. It's pretty late. There's just a load of people surrounding my car on the back wall along here. They were blaring tunes like 5 minutes ago. They can't see in the car or anything, but they've been here for a while now. Like, they're not that bad, but I'm just kind of, I don't know, I feel a bit weird. They turned the music off and they got out of the car, but they're all just like around the car shouting. I'm gonna give it 10 minutes and see, but this could be a bail situation, which would be very unfortunate, because I was looking forward to my morning mountain sunrise coffee. Well, that was a flop. They doubled down. They took a load of stuff out of the car and like sat up on the wall, and they were just shouting. They were there for like, I don't know, maybe half an hour, 45 minutes. So I bailed. I'm out. I'm gone. Which is unfortunate, because I had a cozy little setup going here. I was pretty happy, pretty chill. I think I scared the absolute shit out of them when I started the car up, and I just bolted off. But yeah, lesson learned. Don't car camp, I guess, that close to a town. Like, it's a pretty built up area around here, and that's just a little car park just tucked away. So it's a perfect spot for people to pull up, and like, they weren't doing anything wrong or anything, you know. They just pulled up and were hanging out, but I wasn't getting any rest. I felt like a creep. I felt creepy or something like that. I don't know. I felt like I was spying on them. It was weird. I didn't like it anyway, so I thought best to just get out of there. Unfortunate, because I wanted to have a nice little coffee morning and have a little morning walk around the cemetery. That's graveyard is famous, and the church there, because it's supposed to be the birthplace of St.Brigit. But hey, maybe I'll come back and I'll do something else here. But for now, it is what it is. I'm gonna head home and get a bit of sleep. So, ihawa, I guess. Slán go fóill. See you in the next one.